I think we'll get started now. So this is Pei Kao. She's from YouTube and she's the VP of Engineering at YouTube for Trust and Safety. And in this role, she's responsible for protecting the the security of YouTube for creators, viewers, and advertisers, while helping to ensure that YouTube leads the industry in the highest standards for online content, trust, and safety.
Thank you, Naomi. Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. Over the years, lots of my friends and colleagues, they graduated from UIUC, so I've been always curious, but this is my very first time at the campus.
And Kay's our keynote speaker as well, so we're really happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's so great to see you. You know, when I first stepped off the plane yesterday, I stepped out, I was like, wow, this place is flat. But then as I get on the Uber and coming over to the campus, I was shocked how vibrant the campus is. You know, I got here around midnight and on the street, I see students walking. It's just such a great feel of a college town. So I'm really happy to be here. And in today's talk, I hope to tell you a bit more about the security risks of generative AI. I know all of you are students here, and I really think of you as, you know, the next generation leaders of the tech industry. And I feel that it is my responsibility to keep you informed of the risks that this new technology called generative AI poses to our society and to our work. So, how many people here have used ChatGPT to help with their coursework? Please raise your hand. Okay, pretty much everyone. Okay, all right, okay. How many of you have used Copilot when you're coding? All right, okay, good number of people, all right. How many of you have used tools like 11 Labs? Or how about DALL-E, the image generation? Okay, all right. So you're pretty familiar with all of these tools. And as you can see, they're quite powerful. They're fun for some things. But what I want to tell you today is that with such powerful technology, there are risks. So today's talk, I'm not going to focus on how wonderful generative AI tech is. We all agree they're wonderful. What I want to call your attention to is the risks coming from different type of things that these technologies are generating. I'll start about the risks when media has been generated by these tools. Then I'll move on to text generation risks and coding generation risks. And feel free to interact with me at any point if you have questions. All right, so another word for media generation risk is called deepfakes. And that, who hasn't heard of deepfakes? Nobody. Yeah. And what has been interesting in the last few years is that there has been a very dramatic increase in the capabilities of generative AI models at generating something very realistic. As you can see here, in the last few years, the capability of these models have tremendously increased. And also the cost of creating these super realistic media has reduced significantly. With the reduction in cost and the increase in realism come a lot of risks. Fake voice. In case you haven't paid much attention, fake voice generate a lot of risks. I don't know if you probably haven't opened a bank account for a while, but a couple of years ago, when you open a bank account, some banks will very proudly tell you, we have voice ID. Your voice is your ID. You can use your voice to log onto your bank account. Guess what? You cannot do that anymore. Because today, 11 Labs, their technology is good enough with just 10 seconds of your voice sample. They can create a realistic enough voice to unlock your bank account. So voice biometrics is no longer available. Another risk that there has been numerous reports about scammers scamming deep fake voices of regular people and then make scam calls to their loved ones, ask for money or ask for other sort of financial payouts. This has happened. And also, in addition to these individual scams that affect individuals, from a society perspective, fake audio recordings with super realistic voices has caused problems in elections. A few months ago, there was an election in Slovakia. Just days before that election, a fake audio recording of one of the top contenders for president of Slovakia surfaced. In that audio recording, this candidate was heard talking about how he has rigged the election. It is fake, it is deep fake. But this happened just days before the election. And as a result, that candidate lost election. And some of you might know that Slovakia actually elected a pro-Russia president. So as you can see that these fake recordings, fake voice, not only affect us individually, they are harming the society as well. You might say, oh, what we should learn is that voice recordings is no longer trustworthy. We should not believe voice anymore. What we should do is that we demand to see the person. We want to see the person doing the talks. And that will make sure that we're no longer fake. All right? Not so fast. It turns out that there are softwares out there already that while someone on a Zoom call, they can swap the face and swap the voice. So you may be on the Zoom call with someone you think is your professor. You cannot be really sure the other end is actually your professor. Softwares exist today that do face swap and voice swap and have the new audio and video stream linked with the plugins of all the common voice conferencing software, so that you are no longer sure who on the other end it really is. In fact, that a couple months ago, there is an engineering consulting firm, a global one, their Hong Kong office was attacked this way. Their Hong Kong office, one of the person there saw that he was on a conference call with the CFO of the company, following instructions to wire fund to some account. Well, that person who we think is the CFO of the company is a fake. It's a scam. Not only we have these individual attacks, with the pandemic, remote working and working remotely become a pretty common practice. Guess what? There has been report that North Korean spies has faked to be an American and join conference meetings in American face and American voice when they are in fact North Korean, and they get employment in cybersecurity firms. And these people will be able to put in backdoors in the cybersecurity software the firm is building. All pretty scary stuff. Fake image these days is quite prevalent and is easy to produce. All of you have seen a couple months ago the fake image that was posted on Truth Social. That image, you might say, oh, this is what we call cheap fakes. It isn't that hard to make. But Washington Post have done studies where, stable diffusion and some of the tools are so good at generating images that journalists have a hard time to tell whether they're real or not. I don't know if some of you have, read, I think both New York Times and Washington Post, from time to time, they do a quiz of their readers, says real or fake. They will show you an image and ask you to check whether it's real or fake. I have done those quizzes. Believe me, I only get 4 out of 10 right. That's how bad it is for humans to judge what is fake and not fake anymore. And as evidence of how the cost of creating fake images has lowered, even middle schoolers these days, they can make nudes of their classmates. This is how bad things are, that it's so cheap to create these fake images. Let's look at video. Not all fake videos are necessarily harmful. At YouTube, there is a channel called Unreal Keanu Reeves. Okay, I'm a big fan of Keanu Reeves. So, when they have shorts of an impersonator who is showing Keanu Reeves doing lots of mundane stuff in life, I really enjoyed it. I don't mind that deepfake video. But not everything is so harmless. A couple months ago, there is a scam going around in social media where Jennifer Aniston is shown at endorsing some games that gave out free MacBooks. That was a scam. Okay, and worse, that for some reason, there are a bunch of scammers really like making deepfake videos of President Macron of France. A couple months ago, that there is a video that started circulating in Nigeria that showed that, President Macron was in a news conference announcing that he has resigned. These things are circulating on social media. So how can our society defend against these risks? The problem is that all these fake media, with their realism, attack us at the core of how we experience our environment, our world. Because you see that, as human beings, we evolve to trust our eyes and trust our ears. We trust what our eyes see and what our ears hear. Over the last 30 years, increasingly, the media has delivered us through digital ways. All right, but before the rise of these generative AI tools, we can still sort of say, oh, it's a video, it looks pretty realistic, and I can believe that is real. Not anymore. That's the problem facing our society. And I think that, we have to come up with defenses. So before I get into the existing known techniques, what do you guys think?
Things like
Yeah.
images generated by AI.
I'll talk a bit about that as well. All right. Yes. Go ahead.
I know, like video and image generation models have watermarks.
Yes.
They have marks at the same.
That's a good idea, but I will tell you why that's not sufficient. Yes.
I've always thought it'd be interesting to use like Fitbit location data or Fitbit heartbeat data to like validate your identity. So you could like essentially check in as like your private, like a pass key for like your identity on like a GPC or something.
Yes. That has been discussed. Yep. All right. So at a personal level, I think that I hope all of us, the first thing that you need to do is awareness and vigilance. And by the way, I recommend that all of you have a shared secret in your family. The days, the date of some events that only your family member would know. So that if you ever receive a phone call from a number that you don't recognize, and the other end is the voice of your sister or brother or your parents, you can try to authenticate the other end with a shared secret. This is, for those of you who have taken computer science classes, that, in computer digital communication, one way to authenticate the other end of the communication is through a shared secret key. And this is the analog version of it, having a shared secret with your loved ones. And also that, don't use voice biometrics for anything anymore. That is no longer safe. Okay, and also that, you guys need to be, on top of the fraud trend. Be aware. It used to be that, you get a lot of phishing attack for your password whatnot through email. Just be aware that people are actually starting to use, voice calls or video conference calls as phishing attacks as well. And sometimes, they might even give you a fake job offer. And then they directly ask you to fill in a W-9 form, and there you're going to give out your social security number. And if you fill out a direct deposit form, there, you just give out your bank account number. So awareness and vigilance is what all of us should do at a personal level. And by the way, even at a workplace, there was a news report. It was pretty interesting that there is an executive of the Ferrari division in the United States. One day he got a phone call from the other end, says is a CEO, and asking him about some information about the company. And at some point, this executive grew suspicious, and he asked, "Oh, in last week's all hands meeting, you recommended a book. Which book is that?" The moment he asked that question, the other side hung up. So that is clearly another way to sort of authenticate who is at the other end. The other thing is that a lot of states have started passing legislations to make it a crime to create deep fakes of someone's likeness without their permission. And primarily, this is targeting all the deepfake porn. And a lot of young women are victims of deepfake porn. So about 10 states already have laws against it around January time, and then Washington State and I think Tennessee passed laws. So all the states in the U.S. are passing laws, and everyone is kind of waiting to see what the federal government would do. By the way, in EU, in the Eurozone, they already made it a crime to create deep fakes of someone without their permission. So this is very helpful, but it doesn't really solve the problem because, to bring the perpetrator of the deepfake generation, bring them to law is heavyweight, and sometimes it's hard to prove that this one is the perpetrator. So as one of you guys just pointed out, hey, what about all the technology providers? They provide GenAI too. Don't they bear some responsibility? And indeed, they do feel that they bear responsibility, and they are working really hard. 11 Labs earlier this year announced that we are providing an API to the world that anyone can send audio recording to us, and they can ask us, did R2 ever generated this audio recording? And they do that through a way of embedding a watermark, a not audible watermark in the audio they have generated. Same with Google. Google have announced that of the text and video and images generated through generative AI tools provided by Google, there is a watermark embedded in it, and then they provide a library to anyone can run a library on the piece of media to detect if the watermark is present. And same with OpenAI. They are also providing watermarks in this. And as you pointed out, not only the generative AI providers, they need to provide watermarks, the social media platforms where they're distributing these medias, they also have a responsibility to inform the viewers. And other social media platforms, they are stepping up. They are doing this. On X, formerly known as Twitter, they have introduced what we call a community notes. So under a post of particular news item and an image, there may be a community note that crowdsourced from the community on X to say that, by the way, this is fake. Same with Facebook. They added an information pop-up called AI info when they have detected a piece of media is generated using one of the tools, either 11 Labs or Google or any of the other generative AI tools. They will put an AI info there. They will not take it down, but they will put the information out there. Same with YouTube. YouTube will also, in the description of a video or short, tell you whether this media has been detected to be generated by AI tools. So social media platforms are trying to do their part as well. But these are not sufficient. This doesn't solve the problem. You see, the responsible GenAI providers, they will put a watermark in their media. But you go to GitHub, there are Stable Diffusion. There's a gazillion of tools out there that they are happily generating a fake media without a watermark. In fact, I think that Stable Diffusion actually did say that whatever they generate had a watermark, and then you find on the internet somewhere there's instruction. You download the package and then take out this and that, how you get rid of watermark. Because of there's always bad guys out there using the tools that's not from the responsible providers, we need to develop technologies to detect fake media. And this is the active research area for the last 8 years. In fact, that over 8 years ago, the research community have already recognized that this is a coming risk. And DARPA, one of the primary funding agencies for a lot of university research, they have sponsored a program in the last 8 years of a number of research institutions to look into this problem. And today, 2 of the labs, they are provided open source public facing tools for you to check. So Professor Lee at University of Buffalo in New York, he has a lab that started this website called deepfakeometer.org. You can create an account on this website and then upload the image or video that you think might be fake. And that website hosted a number of public open source fake detecting classifiers, and then it will run the classifier on your media and give you a probability of whether it's fake or not. Professor Isroni from University of Washington also started truemedia.org. Very similar idea. They not only hosted publicly developed public source classifiers, they have also developed some of their own technology. So these things are there, but there are limitations to deepfake detection technologies. First of all, these detectors are themselves machine learning models. And for those of you who know how machine learning models are built, it needs a training data, okay? So for training data, you give it a collection of images that is not fake. Then you give a collection of images that is fake. And then you ask the model to build a classifier to tell the difference between the two. What the researchers have found is that often they have what they call the out-of-domain attack. So for example, you might build a classifier with, primarily the fake image is actually of people, okay? And if you did that, then the classifiers is actually really good at detecting fake images of people. But if you give it a fake image of, a building on fire, the classifier will misfire. It actually cannot tell because it's never really trained on those data. So it has this out-of-domain problem. The other thing is that there has been a lot of techniques that they actually don't really use machine learning, but rather use some, spectrum analysis of either the audio or the video to detect whether something is fake or not. Any of both the ML detection and the non-ML detection technology, it has a fixed shelf life. All it takes is that someone published a paper to say, this is how I am detecting whether something is generated by the generative AI model or not. Because the moment the paper is published, it doesn't take long for someone to fine-tune the generative AI model to produce something that bypasses that detection. So all of these techniques only have a limited shelf life. And what happens now is that there's a co-evolution of fake generation model and fake detection model, and they will co-evolve. Most of them are all machine learning models. And once one gets better, the other will work harder 6 months later, the other get better, and this co-evolution can go on forever. There is an insidious effect from these co-evolution, which is that as a machine learning model goes, you will never have 100% precision, 100% recall, meaning that you will never be 100% correct. When you are not 100% correct, any piece of media, image, audio, video, there is a suspicion in people's mind that it might be fake. Why is that problematic? Think about our court system, okay? Surveillance videos introduced as evidence, all right? Audio recordings introduced as evidence in the court of law. And when there's that risk, that suspicion that it might be fake, this is causing a huge problem for our society. What do you think we should do? Any ideas? What we need, in addition to all the fake detection model, we need a way for a piece of media to prove that I am capturing real life. you need to have the other side. Not only tools to detect if it might be fake or not. We need a way for media to say, I am of real life. This is real. If you think about how this might happen, it really requires collaborations from all the systems in the tool chain of a media creation. Media creation starts from the camera's capturing. The camera needs to say, I'm a camera. I am capturing what I think is the real world. Okay? From there, the camera captures, goes through the editing software. And the editing software needs to say that I prove that the only thing I did on this piece of image is color filtering. And then that goes to the social media platforms, where the social media platform says that of this media uploaded to me, I see that it is true. I see the associated metadata that prove to me that it is true. So this collaboration of tool chain is in fact happening today, and that is called the C2PA standard, which stands for Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity. And this is a coalition of everyone on this tool chain, start with Google, Sony, the camera manufacturers, to Adobe, the editing software, to, platforms like, YouTube, and also, journalist outlets like BBC. They're very interested in it. Otherwise, how could they prove that what they capture is true? Hopefully, with this collection of technologies in place, we can keep the fake media problem under control. That's the hope. But as you can see here, this area needs a lot of work. And I hope that you will become interested in this area, because this does pose a risk, a challenge to our society. Now, I have talked about, problems from media generation. Now I'm going to switch gear and tell you risks from text generation. Okay, so all of you use ChatGPT and all the chatbots. Do you know that the chatbots, when they first started, they were spilling out hateful, harassment, all the bad stuff, right? And then all the chatbots started what they called the task of alignment, meaning that I want to make sure that what I generate out of my LLM aligns to the values of human society. So this is called alignment, right? So these days, you go to ChatGPT and you says, give me a step-by-step instructions of how to steal someone's identity. And they're like, no, I'm not going to tell you, right? Same with how to make a bomb. I'm not going to tell you, all right? But do you know, their defense is only as far as you didn't trick it. If you say, give me a step-by-step instruction for how to steal someone's identity, followed by this very weird-looking set of strings, followed by this suffix, the model happily oblige. And this is not just a problem with ChatGPT. This is a problem with Llama. This is a problem with every large language model. In fact, late last year, there was a research paper that was published. And what they show is that, first of all, how do you think they came up with that weird-looking set of suffix? Do you think they sit there and a bunch of people, graduate students, and try random things? No. They use ML. What do you think? They use ML to come up with those prompts. This paper talked about how you can actually take a set of all of these, harm-inducing prompts, and then systematically figure out a prompt that will trick a model into actually producing the harmful output. They did a study on an open source model called Vicuna. They tried the Vicuna 7 billion parameter, 13 billion parameter. What is really interesting, striking, is that even though they tried this on an open source, they call it the white box model, and they figure out a prompt that works, lo and behold, that weird-looking prompt, it works on almost all of the LLMs out there. The ones from Google, the ones from OpenAI, they all fall for that particular prompt. You might say, yeah, what's the big deal? There's internet, plenty of internet, sites tell you how to make a bomb. What's the big deal? They didn't generate it. The big deal is that you have to be very cautious if you ever want to use the LLM for more than being a chatbot. There are ideas of, we can build an agent using LLM. One example proposal is that, you know what? The LLMs are so good, so powerful. I'm going to let it handle my email. All right? I'm going to take all my email and I will fine tune this, LLM model, or I take all my email and put it as a context for the LLM model. And then I'm going to ask the LLM model, from now on, reply to emails, incoming emails for me on my behalf using my style. Isn't that great? Isn't that wonderful? Well, I bet you that when you think about that, you didn't think that, this agent is going to leak all of your email to whoever that sent a particular weird email to you. When you use LLM that has your own private data and is also exposed to an arbitrary external input, be very careful. This is not a hypothetical risk. Late last year, something like this indeed was proven to be possible. BART, late last year, announced that, hey, BART can connect to your Google Docs, all right? And then someone says, oh, really? Can connect to Google Docs? So what they did is that they had crafted a special Google Doc. Then they shared with the victim. And then the victim was happily, using his own BART and, told the BART to auto-process this doc, right? As BART auto-process the doc, BART itself have a lot of built-in, okay, all right, don't leak users' data, don't leak your training data, don't leak your context data, don't leak all of this stuff. It has all of those, safety built in. But those safety, just like the jailbreak of alignment, can be bypassed. So in this Google Doc, they specially crafted a string that bypassed BART's safety mechanism. And then BART happily dumped all of the chat history with victim in a doc and shared with the attacker. That's what happened. And of course, before he published the blog, he actually told Google, and Google promptly fixed it. But this is an example of the risks these type of tools poses. So I hope that later on, after you graduate and you work and you're going to design an LLM agent, I hope you're aware of these risks. Now let's talk about coding. We all use Copilot. Copilot is great. Plenty of news reports says, 50%, increase in productivity is a wonderful tool. Guess what problem might happen? So last year, a group of researchers at Stanford University asked 80 developers. They got 80 developers volunteer, and they split these developers in two groups. One group is told, yep, use Copilot. The other group is told, do not use Copilot at all. And they asked these developers to, program, to code. Here are the 5 things they asked them to code. They're not complicated things. Write a encryption, decryption function using secret keys in Python. Probably one of your course assignment. And, write a function in Python that, does public key, signature algorithm. And if you ever take a computer security class, you might have it as an assignment, right? And also, write, file processing code, but make sure that, it is not returning file objects of any other directory except in a particular one. Or write a function that, insert a row in the SQL table, or write a function that converts integer to strings. Not complicated stuff. And then these being computer science, computer security researchers, they specifically look for the bugs in the code written by these developers. And they look at the mistakes among the two groups. So what I've shown here that, in blue is the group that's using Copilot. And in yellow is the group that's not using Copilot. So you can see here, actually, the group is using Copilot for auto-completion had more mistakes. In most cases, except one for buffer overflow. All right? And the paper also said that not only this, but the group that using Copilot was more confident that their code didn't have bugs. So Copilot might give you a false sense of security there. Now, to OpenAI's credit, after the paper is published, they actually developed a new tool called Critic GPT, specifically to check for bugs and security bugs in the code generated by Copilot. So these days, Critic GPT can find the bugs. But this is an example. There are security bugs that Critic GPT will not be able to find, right? This means that for all of you who are programming, however you use Copilot, you better really understand what the code is doing. I don't think you can get away with, whoever is writing the code, that you can go without understanding what the code is actually doing. So I have told you the security risks from 3 different types of generations from generative AI tasks. I hope that this talk is now equip you with the knowledge of these risks so that later on in your work, you will put in proper mitigation methods to guard against these risks. And let's all stay educated, because these risks is a very ongoing, continuously evolving field, and I recommend all of you to stay up to date in the research literature in this area. And that's it. That's what I want to talk about today.